Welcome back to Healing ADHD Marriages. I'm Dr. Stacy Brown. And today I want to talk about a pattern that affects many couples, especially couples navigating ADHD related challenges. One spouse begins sharing something difficult. Maybe they had a hard day, maybe they're overwhelmed by parenting, maybe they're worried about finances. Maybe they feel hurt by something that happened in the marriage earlier that day. And before they have finished talking, the other spouse begins offering solutions. Here's what you should do. You need to stop thinking about it. Why don't you just, or I already told you how to handle that. Sometimes the person offering solutions has good intentions. They may love their spouse deeply. They may feel uncomfortable seeing them hurt, and they may want to make the pain go away as quickly as possible. But when a spouse needs emotional connection and receives a quick solution instead, they can feel alone. They may think, "You're not listening to me." They may feel as though their emotions are a problem to be solved rather than an experience to be understood. This is where the phrase presence before solutions can be so helpful. Before you solve, first be present. Before you explain, first listen. Before you defend, first seek to understand. In an ADHD affected marriage, this can be especially important because conversations can move quickly. One spouse may interrupt because they are afraid they will forget their thought. Another spouse may jump into problem-solving mode because they are trying to manage anxiety or avoid feeling helpless. A spouse may become distracted or impatient because emotional conversations feel long, intense, or difficult to follow. These challenges are real, but they do not mean a couple cannot learn new patterns. The goal is not to eliminate every interruption or become perfectly calm in every conversation. The goal is to create enough emotional safety that both spouses can feel heard. Let's begin by understanding why presence matters. When your spouse comes to you with a concern, they may not be asking you to fix the solution or fix the problem. They may be asking you to join them in it. They may need to know that you are not carrying the burden alone. They may need to hear, "That sounds difficult." They may need to hear, "I can understand why you feel that way." They may need to hear, "Tell me more." Those words may seem simple, but they can change the entire emotional atmosphere of a conversation. The empathy chapter in Marital ADHD teaches that empathy is not merely a personality trait. It is a choice to enter another person's experience and try to see the world through their eyes. That does not mean you have to agree with every conclusion your spouse reaches. It does not mean that you have to accept blame for everything that you did or did not do. It does not mean you must abandon your own perspective. It means that before you respond with your perspective, you make room to understand theirs. This is especially important in conflict. During a disagreement, most of us naturally listen through the filter of self-protection. We listen for what sounds unfair. We listen for what feels like criticism. We listen for the part we want to correct. Then we prepare our defense. But a marriage cannot heal if both people are only preparing their next argument. Healing begins when someone chooses to slow the conversation down. One of the most helpful phrases you can learn is, "What I hear you saying is," then repeat back what you believe your spouse is feeling or experiencing. For example, "What I hear you saying is that when I forget something important, you feel like you are carrying everything alone." Or, "What I hear you saying is that when I start giving advice right away, you feel like I do not care about your feelings." Or, "What I hear you saying is that you are not trying to attack me. You're trying to tell me that you feel overwhelmed." Then ask, "Did I understand you correctly?" This is called reflection. Reflection does not mean you agree with every detail. It means you are making sure your spouse feels accurately heard. For many couples, this one skill can reduce conflict dramatically. Now let's talk about validation. Validation means acknowledging that your spouse's emotions make sense from their point of view. It does not mean you have to say, "You are right about everything." It means you can say, "I can see why that would feel painful," or "I understand why you would feel overwhelmed. I can see how that situation would make you anxious. I may not see it exactly the same way, but I understand why it affected you." Validation is powerful because it tells your spouse, "Your emotions are not ridiculous. Your experience matters to me." Many people have learned unhealthy ways of responding to emotions. They may minimize. "You are overreacting. It's not that big of a deal. You are too sensitive." Or they may compare. "Other people have it much worse." They may use logic to override feelings, like, "You should not feel that way because..." They may avoid the conversation entirely by changing the subject, making a joke, or becoming silent, or leaving the room. Often these responses are not meant to be cruel. They may be learned patterns. They may come from families where emotions were ignored or criticized. They may come from fear, discomfort, or a lack of emotional vocabulary, or some might call this emotional IQ or intelligence. But even when the intention is not harmful, the impact can still be painful. Your spouse may begin to hide their emotions because they do not feel safe sharing them. That is why emotional safety matters. Emotional safety means your spouse can bring you their feelings without expecting judgment, ridicule, dismissal, or immediate defensiveness. It means they can say, "I am hurt," without being told they are too sensitive. It means they can say, "I am overwhelmed," without being told to get over it. It means they can say, "I need you," without being made to feel needy or weak. A healthy marriage needs room for both spouses to be human. Now, if you are someone who quickly jumps to solutions, I want to give you a simple tool. Before offering advice, ask this question: "Do you want me to listen, help you think through options, or help you solve this?" That one question can prevent many misunderstandings. Sometimes your spouse will say, "I just need you to listen." Sometimes they will say, "I would like your advice." Sometimes they will say, "Can you help me make a plan?" The key is not assuming. Ask. And if your spouse says they only need you to listen, try to honor that request. You can say, I am here. That sounds really hard. I can see why you are tired. What part feels the heaviest right now? How can I support you? These are not empty phrases. They are always ways of entering your spouse's emotional world. For couples affected by ADHD, it can also be helpful to create structure around emotional conversations. You may choose a time when both of you are less tired. You may agree to keep the conversation to 10 or 15 minutes at first. Set the timer if you have to. You may agree that one person speaks for 2 minutes while the other only listens. Then you switch. You may keep a notepad nearby so the listening spouse can write down a thought instead of interrupting and losing it. These tools are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are taking your marriage seriously enough to support it. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine that one spouse says, I feel like I've been doing everything by myself lately. A defensive response might be, that's not true. I did the dishes yesterday. A solution-focused response might be, just make me a list and I will do it. But a present empathic or empathetic response might be, it sounds like you've been feeling overwhelmed and unsupported. I do not want you to feel alone in this. Can you tell me what has felt the heaviest? Do you hear the difference? The first response argues, the second response tries to fix, and the third response first seeks to understand. Once your spouse feels heard, then you can move toward problem solving together. You might say, thank you for telling me. Let's look at what needs to change. Presence before solutions does not mean solutions never matter. It means connection comes first. When spouses feel understood, they are more likely to work together. They are less likely to become defensive, and they're more likely to share honestly. And they are more likely to believe that the other person is on their side. In Galatians 6:2, Ephesians 4:32, and 1 Peter 3:8, the Bible calls believers to compassion, tenderness, and bearing one another's burdens. In marriage, that means we do not treat our spouse's pain as inconvenience. We choose to come alongside them. You may not be able to remove every burden. You may not be able to fix every problem, but you can be present. You can listen. You can validate. You can say, you are not alone. Here's an action step for this week. The next time your spouse shares something emotional, do not offer advice for the first 2 minutes. Instead, use this simple pattern. First, listen. Second, reflect back what you heard. Third, evaluate the emotion. And then fourth, ask what they need. You can say, what I hear you saying is, I can understand why that would feel difficult. Do you need me to listen, help you think through options, or help you solve this? Practice this one pattern for 1 week. You may be surprised by how much it changes the tone of your conversations. If this video helped you, subscribe to Healing ADHD Marriages. This channel is here to offer practical tools, biblical encouragement, and hope for couples who want to grow in understanding, connection, and love. Your spouse may not need you to have every answer. They may simply need to know that when life is hard, you will turn toward them and stay present. The book describes empathy as entering a spouse's experience and recommends presence, reflection, validation and curiosity, and restraint rather than immediately fixing or minimizing what they share. Blessings on you.